Startup Pulse, powered by CXO Digital Pulse. In celebration of National Startup Day, we kick off a dedicated series spotlighting visionary founders who push boundaries, disrupt norms, and shape the future. This day underscores the transformative impact of entrepreneurship, fueling innovation and economic growth, serving as a powerful reminder for the potential that lies within every startup. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Satya Chakravarti, who is a serial entrepreneur with a deep passion for problem solving. His journey, marked by multiple successful ventures such as Agnikul Cosmos, Aerostravelos Energy Private Limited, Galaxy Eye, and now Eplane.AI. They all underscore the power of resilience and relentless pursuit of new ideas. Known for turning challenges into fresh opportunities, Satya embodies the entrepreneurial spirit. A very warm welcome, Mr. Satya.
Thank you so much, Pratik.
So, Satya, you have navigated the entrepreneurial landscape in diverse field. Every startup is very different from the other one. So, what core principle helps you stay adaptable when moving into unfamiliar territories, I would say?
There are some fairly basic principles that I have to follow. The first one is coming from the fact that I was actually a professor. I'm a professor, as a matter of fact. I still teach at IIT Madras. But when I was a professor before my entrepreneurial stint, it occurred to me that we were not really having as many jobs as we were producing skilled labor, if you would think that way. So the penchant for learning engineering and solving hard problems, which was somewhat lacking among the students, because there was just nothing to do after they study like in aerospace engineering or so. So I was actually motivated to sort of spawn aerospace companies, in the industry. And aerospace actually itself is pretty diverse. We have rockets, we have planes, we have engines, we have satellites, and so on. And each of these has its own domain and territory in terms of applications, its own cost structures, price points, and all of that stuff. And many of these things we don't really discuss in the classroom at all. So students are kind of oblivious to what they are stepping into. And I wanted to actually have a ringside view of this myself, as well as go through the whole thing with Eplane as one of the startups myself, so that I can understand how to navigate through creating an industry that didn't quite exist anywhere in the world, or even in India, as a matter of fact. So that's the fundamental principle that I have been that's been motivating me. The second common principle across them is to always ask the question, who cares about what you're doing? And what's the business case for the customers? What's the pain point that you're trying to solve? What's the value that's associated with it? What are they willing to pay? And how many of them are there? What's the market size? Is it worth our time to go after? Is it a problem that we need to solve for the world out of India? Or is it just an Indian problem? Are we copying somebody else's solution? These are all things that are very basic questions to ask when we get into something. And so all these boxes will have to get checked for me to do something.
Definitely. And while you mentioned that, that understanding of market landscape, to understand what's the demand and supply gap, if there is any, and are you actually fulfilling that? There's another very important aspect, because when you are there into diverse fields, you need to those experts. That human resource is key, because you need to be a good leader to ensure that you are guiding your team and getting inspired by them and inspiring them. So when you're pioneering all these new ideas, how do you balance that thrill of taking a risk with a new idea with the need of being a very responsible and a sustainable leader?
Yeah, so I think we can't put the cart before the horse. It's not really about developing new technology as such. It's more about problem solving. So we have to put the customer in the front. We have to position who we are trying to solve this problem for. What are they looking for? Are we overdoing the technology? Are we getting too passionate about technology and getting married to it, that we are getting divorced from the customer? These are things that should always actually be at the crosshairs of our thinking. And if we do that, then it's possible that we could actually do something fairly mundane, but could bring down the cost of doing it. For example, that could be one disruption. That could be business disruptors instead of technology disruptors. So lots of different ways by which you can go to market with. And that's something that we have to be always learning to do, and make sure that we are trying to go to the market as quickly as possible with whatever we have, and then grow from there and so on. And then we have this dilemma that if you actually go to market with something that's kind of like an MVP, how do we grow from there and do the next best technologically advantageous product while you are actually still expanding in the market? So that I think straddling those two tracks is not so easy to do as well. Yeah.
Okay. And as you mentioned, technology, now this is, I would say, a field where collaboration is one of the key pillars. So, from your perspective, how crucial is this collaboration both with the peers and across industries, specifically when you are developing a thriving startup ecosystem?
Yeah. So today's world is actually sitting on a pile of new technology enablers. We keep hearing about AI, for example, all around the place, but that's actually more of the software side. But there is a significant amount of progress that's actually happening on the hardware side. For example, there are metal 3D printers that are coming out. There is a lot of carbon fiber work that's happening. These are things that are actually less talked about. And of course, there is more of electrification that's happening, more of battery technologies that are getting up there, and more of motors and all that stuff, which are spawning the EV industry. So it's important for us to kind of pick and choose all these different components that are just about emerging in allied industries and pull them together and then try to customize it to our problem, because in aerospace we probably need a more powerful motor that is lighter. We need to have a more energy dense battery than what a automotive industry might be using, and so on. So there is always something to pick and build from, and we always have to look at okay, if something is already there, is it possible for me to actually go make a plane or a drone or any of those things to go to market with, and so on. So there are multiple layers of tech building that we can do, starting from what others have done in allied industry, and we're always open to what others are doing around, whether it is in the batteries, the materials, the printing, the manufacturing technologies, or the AI itself, and sensors, cameras. Lots of these things we have to actually kind of box ourselves with these peripheral technologies and then go into what we want to do, borrowing from all of them. So there is large number of partnerships that go into doing these things. Yeah, which is unconventional as well, because a conventional rocket may not really have so much AI packed on it. There's a conventional aircraft will not have so much um, uh, obstacle avoidance kind of thing packed into it, and so on. So we have to do more than what conventional uh, aerospace industry does, and that's enabled by the new age technologies that are getting developed in these allied fields.
Definitely. And I think technology is one space which is changing every
Yeah,
quarter, I would say.
absolutely.
And because now that time span has really decreased, earlier we used to say, maybe another 2 years or 3 years, but now it's as
Gone.
short as 3 months, I would say.
Correct, correct, absolutely right. The only challenge we have in aerospace is to be able to qualify these things, certify these things as aero grade or space grade, and so on. And that takes a little while. And by the time we actually certify something to be space grade, that's almost becoming obsolete. So you kind of have to be in the race
True.
all the time. Yeah, yeah.
True. And while this technology trends are changing, I would like to understand that, any emerging trend or challenge that you foresee in shaping the entrepreneurship journey for the new startups, for the aspiring founders. So, how do you think they can prepare best for the next 5 years?
I think the starting point is always to look at what could be a good pain point to solve. Most good founder stories has a personal touch where they found that they were struggling for doing something, and then it starts with an anecdote. It's about good storytelling from a personal point of view. So always be on the lookout for problems to solve, and then you can actually ask the question, am I the right person to solve this problem? And is the way I'm thinking the right way to solve this problem, or there are or easier ways to solve this problem. Somebody else could actually solve this problem better. Can I actually work with him instead of me having to do the whole thing myself? So these are all questions that we will have to ask when we are stepping into an entrepreneurial journey.
Okay, great. So before we conclude our conversation, Mr. Satya, I would really like to understand two things. The very first being, is there any myth that you tend to observe or you have heard from your peers when anyone starts an entrepreneurial journey that really needs to be broken in the mindset of other people?
Oh yeah, I think there are a couple of myths. So from an investor point of view, for example, there is this myth that only 1 in 100 startups or 1 in 10 startups, whatever is the ratio, succeeds, the other ones fail. And therefore, they will actually want to spread their bets on so many of them, but just wait for that one big jackpot or something of that sort. And I think that's probably true in the true, the classic Silicon Valley kind of approach where you're essentially software driven and there are so many of them, and you need to get lots of things right, starting from the founders to the problem that you're solving, the technology that you're adopting, going to market, growth, and all of those things. So you could actually fail in lots of any of these kinds of steps. But in deep tech, particularly in India, we just can't afford to fail. The amount of money that we get to put in is actually precious, but it's actually significant by world standards. And we try to pull off something with about 1/10 of the investment that that will have to be done outside, and that's actually very big for us. So when so much money is at stake, the typical Indian middle class mindset would be go get to succeed. So you have to succeed. You don't have a choice, kind of thing. So I would actually suggest that if you are customer focused, going to market, those kinds of things, you should actually get at least about 5 out of 10 startups to succeed, if not 9 out of 10. So the thing to look for is this conversion ratio of success to failure, in favor of more successful startups instead of failed startups. So that's a myth that most startups fail. I think we can actually convert that, is what I would say. For the entrepreneur, be market focused is what I would think. Just because you're developing a tech doesn't mean that you will succeed. That could be a myth that you're carrying with you. And you also actually always have to be very humble. You always have to think that you're not the only one who is solving this problem. There could be somebody better who can solve this problem. So can I be the best today, is what I need to be doing. Yeah.
Okay. And while startups are always looking for advice at times, and people are willing to give the advice, any advice that you suggest not to take when being provided?
Don't take no for an answer. Right. So, I mean, we go to investors, 10 investors would say no, the 11th one, you're always looking for the 11th one. So the most important thing is to actually have a firm conviction about what you're doing. And if you have conviction, then don't take no for an advice. And there's always this very funny mantra that if you go ask for advice, people will give you money. If you ask for money, they will give you advice and send you back. So, you just have,
Okay.
right.
It seems that you have experienced that.
Of course, many times. And
Okay.
I'm also on the giving side of advice many times.
Great. It was really nice having a conversation with you, Mr. Satya, and thanks for joining this deep conversation into entrepreneurial inspiration. And I'm sure the audience and aspiring founders on startups would take out some key aspects from this conversation, and especially if you have the complete knowledge of your market landscape, where you intend to go, do understand your consumers also, because I think once these two are being catered pretty well, you know what objective you are after, and you will definitely need to give that 100% to ensure that success with you.
Absolutely.
Great. So as we continue to honor National Startup Day, may Satya's experience and insights spark new ideas and motivate you to embrace the spirit of innovation. Stay tuned for more in our dedicated series brought to you by Startup Pulse, powered by CXO Digital Pulse, where we celebrate the bold visionaries reshaping industries and empowering the next generation of trailblazers. Let's keep fueling progress one startup at a time. Thank you so much for your time for this episode. Do keep looking for more such inspiring stories in this series of ours. Till then, take care.